I think that people missed Thragtusk, and it's the third most popular 5-drop, which doesn't get a ton of play. So we're going to get right into the action. Both players leading with Ravnica block Shocklands.
Yeah, now Chris Hein also Pillar of Flame, Searing Spears, Mizium Mortars, Boros Charm, Bonfire of the Damned, Izzet Charm, Azorius Charm. So he has a ton of spells in his deck. Most of them really aggressive spells. So expect Hein, who's on your right, to be the aggressor in this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got the full 4 Boros Charms. And these Searing Spears are probably just going to go directly to Chris's noggin.
Definitely. The only other thing they might do, they might make a Geist of St. Traft indestructible.
Right.
So it looks like we have Izzet Charm to draw a card, or to draw 2, discard 2, after Chris Marshall plays it, I think, twice. So both players just kind of sculpting their hands, getting ready for the meaty turns of the game, 4, 5, 6, things like that.
The only counterspell in Chris Marshall's deck, Chris Marshall on the left, is 1 Dissipate.
Wow. And
so he's going to be able to land these Thundermaw Hellkites. He's going to be able to land these Geists of St. Traft. His answers at that point are Devour Flesh and Supreme Verdict are his 2 best answers. He also has 3 Terminus.
Right. Now, Chris Marshall plays a lot of removal in this deck. He has 5 straight-up kill spells, 1 sorcery speed, 4 instant speed. He has 5 sweepers, so he has a lot of removal. So expect this game to go fairly long. If Chris Hein wins it, it'll probably be on the back of the burn.
Yeah, I would expect Chris to try and sculpt a situation in which he gets in for like 1 hit with one of his heavy hitters, or 2 hits with a Restoration Angel, something along those lines, and then finish off the rest of it, picking away with Snapcaster Mage, just flash in to deal some damage, maybe once, and then trying to get the rest of it there with Boros Charm, Bonfire of the Damned, Searing Spear.
Right.
Trying to burn him out for about 14.
Exactly, and here's attempt number 1.
And there is a Dissipate.
Yeah, that's the 1 counter spell.
Can't live in fear, though. You gotta go for it.
Exactly.
And that's the only one. So we are fresh out of counter spells now. We do have Snapcaster Mages, so that'll be able to counter 1 other thing. But we've also resolved this Runechanter's Pike.
Exactly. Now, that it doesn't really seem like a big deal because, haha, it's a Runechanter's Pike on a Thundermaw Hellkite, but...
No, it still represents a lot of damage, especially if you're just left with random Snapcaster Mages.
Exactly. End of turn Snapcaster Mage is all of a sudden 8 or 10 damage.
Yeah, Christopher needs to step on the gas. I don't think he has any gas, though, unfortunately. He's just going to start getting milled, which helps in one sense in that the Runechanter's Pike gets bigger.
Yeah,
but that's a myth, is what that is.
Oh, okay.
That's a mirage of that helping you.
Yeah, because you have to figure if Chris Marshall is milling, he has a lot of ways to deal with creatures. Wow, 2 Sphinx's Revelation.
Yeah, we've got a lot. We've got Azorius Charm, Terminus, Devour Flesh, Supreme Verdict, 2 Sphinx's Revelation, and at least 1 other card.
Yeah, this doesn't really seem like a great matchup for Chris Hein.
No.
At first I thought it really was because generally the American decks prey on the control decks, but this deck just has too much burn. It has not enough counter magic, too much burn. The Mizium Mortars and the Pillars of Flame, while they're great against the aggro decks, against Chris Marshall's Nephalia Drownyard, they don't do anything.
That's right. Chris Marshall has a Jace Memory Adept in hand, just in case he wants to go for the 10U to end it.
Wow. Oh, and here's number 1 of the match.
That one's going to be for 4. It's going to draw into some more lands, so that the next one will be for, 6.
And Chris Hein,
7.
2 counterspells in the whole deck, and those are Izzet Charms. So he's already used 1. He has 1 more way to counter spells.
He also has his Snapcaster Mages, of course.
Very true.
And those are very good against X spells in general. This is a Jace Memory Adept with no creatures on the board. Seems like a pretty decent way to go.
Yeah, he's just going for it.
That's going to resolve, and we're going to mill 10. This game's going to be over in a hurry, I think.
Yeah, this is Turbo Mill. This isn't something we've seen all day. Nephalia Drownyards, I think the most they've been activated is twice in one game. Now all of a sudden, Chris Hein is in danger of dying too.
Yeah, Chris isn't even taking care of his graveyard, so he doesn't foresee this game going on far too long.
No, but if he does get a series of fortunate draws, he could definitely steal this one with an end-of-turn Snapcaster attack.
Oh yeah,
for
absolutely. I think that that Christopher Marshall still needs to be careful here. He's not he hasn't completely won this game.
No, and I'm surprised he went for Jace this early, because now he has 3 mana open,
Same.
and Chris Hein can just go end-of-turn Snapcaster, back it up.
I agree. I think that is a little bit of a strange option, although the Boros Charm was the only thing that happened there.
Right.
So that was literally just mill 10. That was just glimpse the unthinkable, gainful life.
Exactly. Target opponent discards a card, mill 10.
But Christopher's keep saying Drago. He just isn't drawing creatures. I think that you're completely right, that there just isn't enough aggression. He's only got 15 creatures in his deck. Most of the decks we've been seeing have 19 to 21. At least having, is it Staticaster to flash in to pick up this Pike
Right.
would do a lot. So here's a Tamiyo, Planeswalker number 2 of 2 in the deck.
It always amazes me how these Esper control players just really...
We have a
Moreland
Haunt that snuck into play.
Ah.
But Devour Flesh is going to quickly take care of that.
And now Snapcaster Mage would probably end the game right here if he had it.
I think so.
But he doesn't.
But he probably doesn't. He needs to see if he can draw out of it.
Okay.
Does he have Snapcaster? Oh, nope, decides not.
That's maybe a Boros Charm to bring Tamiyo down to 1, but that doesn't do a heck of a lot for him.
Yeah, Tamiyo's going to keep that Moreland Haunt tapped, however, in order to keep that any future creatures that would go in there from leaving. I believe that there's a Thundermaw Hellkite in Christopher's graveyard that shouldn't be because it got dissipated. And I think the only other creature is that Restoration Angel that's removed.
Right, and we'll make sure that gets out of the graveyard.
So here's a Thundermaw Hellkite. How does that suit you? That is going to get suited up, and it's going to attack, and it's going to get Azorius Charmed.
And then milled.
And then immediately milled thereafter.
Thereafter, good word.
Unless Chris just wants to take 27 here, which I don't think is going to happen.
Yep, there is that charm, put it on top. We at the beginning of the day, we saw a lot of Esper control decks fall by the wayside, not really perform that well. What do you think makes Chris Marshall's deck different?
He is the newer control decks are trying to go about it in a different way. They aren't trying to Nephalia Drownyard people anymore. They're trying to win through more traditional measures, rather than milling you with lands, basically.
Right.
Whereas Chris Marshall is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. He just added new pieces to the already existing deck. He wasn't trying to get fancy with new Planeswalkers or Obsidian or any of the new, big guys.
Right.
So I think that may have served him very well today, particularly given the Boros Reckoner-centric metagame, where it just, oh, you have Boros Reckoner? Well, ignore it and just play a completely different game of Magic than you.
So, to catch you up on the action, Tamiyo was killed with a pair of burn spells. One was Searing Spear, the other was a Snapcaster Boros Charm. But unfortunately for Chris Hein, that was during his main phase, so
yeah.
Chris Marshall now gets to untap and deal with the Snapcaster.
I'm fairly certain he has several ways to deal with that. One of which is a Devour Flesh.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's letting Chris Hein untap. I might have just gotten rid of it right away.
I think I would have gotten rid of it right then, because Christopher Hein could easily have Counterflux.
Or maybe a Moreland Haunt.
Or Moreland Haunt, for that matter, yeah.
Think twice, wow.
We're going to try and Terminus? Mid-combat? I don't get it.
Didn't work. No Terminus. Now, if I was Chris Marshall, what I'd do right now, I'd ask Chris Hein how many cards are left in his deck. Because that's pretty important with your 2 Drownyards.
Yeah. So we're counting instants. We're up to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that's a 15-1. So he could theoretically afford to take this damage. So he's not going to. He's going to devour some flesh. Making a Moreland Haunt.
Chris Hein opts not to sack the 15-1.
It's attacking.
Then decides to sack the 1-1.
Right?
I like his line.
I like his line there. I think that Chris did that in order to like negate Christopher Hein's options, but I think that dropping to 6 is going to be fine for him because he's probably counted Christopher's deck and found it wanting for more cards.
Right. He might just be able to win with the double mill here, depending if they're 6 or less.
Or he can Terminus.
Yep, Terminus works.
Going to 6 is pretty dangerous. It's
It
pretty
is
risky.
especially with the Snapcaster as the bottom card.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
That could be relevant.
Oh, jeez. This might be the best. Or it might be another Snapcaster and it might be just fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like Chris Hein decides not to Snapcaster.
I think he has Azorius Charm as his last card.
Okay.
It's non-land. Pillar of Flame puts you to 4.
Now, if I'm Chris Marshall, I'm getting a little scared. Oh, is this Boros Charm?
Yep, there it is.
Oh.
Sphinx's Revelation for 3. To go to 3.
Right, to go to 3. Still, though, Moorland Haunt plus Runechanter's Pike means that Chris Marshall had better get a move on with Hein's Library.
That's right. I think he's got Ultimate Price in hand for this upcoming Moorland Haunt token.
Yep, he'll be able to kill that. But any after that, he currently doesn't have a way to kill.
Well, there we go. He just drew a Azorius Charm also. So he does have, I mean, this is one of the frustrating things about this deck is that it just can keep doing things. You know, it's just endless answers, especially with Sphinx's Revelation. Like when you've got Stroke of Genius in your deck, it's almost not even like you're playing Magic anymore.
No, after the first one, as long as it's for 3 or more, it's pretty ugly.
Pretty disgusting. This is an enormous Spirit token.
And that'll be priced. Chris Hein, 3 points of damage away. We'll see if he can do him.
So close, and yet.
Oh, the spear.
And another Sphinx's Revelation.
Is that number 4?
No, I think that's 3. Is it 4?
I'm not sure.
There we go. Gain a million.
Drawing a boatload of cards,
In response, second Searing Spear. No?
No.
Didn't have it?
It's a shame.
That's 8. 9. Does it for 9 to go to 9.
Should Chris Hein have not Searing Speared right there? Should he have passed the
Probably.
turn? Waited for him to Drown Yard, maybe?
I think so. So we have 3 Drown Yards now. Detention Sphere, the Pike. The one of, we have 1 Detention Sphere. He was going to find it eventually.
Yeah, with enough Sphinx's Revelations, anything is possible.
That's correct.
And now he just has a whole bunch of lands to discard. 8 cards.
And some spells.
One more. There we go.
So another land and a Blind Obedience.
I'm almost surprised he didn't keep the Blind Obedience just in case.
Just for value.
I think,
Just to gain some more life too.
yeah, it looks like he might just untap and mill him out here. 1, 2, 3.
That's 9 at end of turn.
That's the scoop.
And there's the scoop.
Chris Hein comes pretty close.
He does come pretty close. That was some pretty sloppy play on both sides, I think, especially on Chris Marshall's, where I think he got a little big for his britches there and decided he was further ahead than he thought he was and took 15 when he didn't need to.
Yeah, taking 15, I mean, I don't do it often, but when I do, I usually regret it.
I usually lose when I take 15 from one creature.
In one attack
More
phase.
often than not, it's an Emrakul, but yeah, when it's a Runechanter's Pike, it's also not great. So
Yeah, Chris Hein, you know, he put up a fight that game. Despite being very out of it, he almost came back and won. If he just could have held off a little bit on that Searing Spear, I think Marshall would have tapped out at some point.
yeah, I think that the way Marshall had played that game, it's possible. Well, he certainly would have gotten the Sphinx of Revelation for 4 less when he did it for 8.
Right.
It's possible he could have just caught him with his pants down and stole the game.
I think he would have, too, because Chris Marshall wasn't being that careful about tapping out.
Yeah. And so, you got to tighten up if you want to make top 8.
Exactly. So looking to their sideboards, Chris Hein unsummons Counterfluxes, Supreme Verdicts, Feeling of Dread, Staticasters, Rest in Pieces, and Purify the Graves. Blech. Not much there.
Yeah, I think that Counterflux is probably about it.
Maybe the one Purify the Grave if he's really afraid of Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, I don't like
But
that.
in an aggressive deck, no, it's
Yeah.
just not worth it.
Meanwhile, for Chris Marshall, lots of one-ofs. We have an extra Detention Sphere. Depends on how afraid of Runechanter's Pike he is.
Yeah, he saw the one. Actually, he saw Chris Hein, most of Chris Hein's deck, so
Yeah.
he probably won't bring it.
Another Jace Memory Adept doesn't seem necessary. Psychic Spiral, not for this matchup. Pithing Needle
Pithing Needle's
is
good.
a good proactive answer to Runechanter's Pike,
Yeah,
as
he could
well
do that.
as Moorland Haunt.
Yeah, maybe if he was worried about something like Slayer Stronghold, I guess
Right.
he could do that. Zero Slayer Stronghold in Chris Hines' deck, which I really don't like. I would love to see one of those, maybe
Yeah.
even two, but...
But he's running the Moorland Haunt, and he also has a Cavern of Souls in there
Right.
to be his specialty lands. Other cards for Chris Marshall include Feeling of Dread might come in. He has an extra Terminus and an extra Supreme Verdict. I'm not sure he needs them against Christopher's deck.
Yeah, generally, a Supreme Verdict or a Terminus probably only killing one creature.
Yeah.
So I think he'd just rather load up on the Pinpoint Removal, the Feeling of Dread.
I also think that the 2 Dispels would be very good.
Yeah, no doubt about that. That would let him tap out for a Supreme or a Sphinx's Revelation with almost no fear. You just leave 1 mana up and
Yep.
you're
And
not
then
really
that
losing
Dispel
much.
gains 3 or 4 if it counters a Searing Spear or a Boros Charm.
Right, or a Counterflux.
Or a Counterflux.
What do you think about all the Rest in Pieces we've been seeing in sideboards? It's in almost every white sideboard.
Yeah, everyone's afraid of that deck now that it finished 2nd and 14th last weekend. I think that it's an overcompensation in a lot of decks. For example, I don't think that Christopher Hines' deck is that afraid of the human deck if he just builds his deck in a slightly different way. Like I think that he can just typically just race it, first of all. And also, you can often Searing Spear a combo piece mid combo. Is it Charm is a big problem for that deck a lot of the time.
Right.
So, and if he just like throws in an Unsummon or something like that, then he's just got enough in his deck already to not need the Rest in Pieces without blowing himself out with the Runechanter's Pike.
I think so too. All of these white decks are playing Rest in Peace. I have seen it sided in once by Rich Wynn, and it wasn't good.
Sure.
So I think Rest in Peace is.
I think
really,
for Chris Marshall's deck, it's correct.
Okay, just because he's trying to mill them out.
He's trying to mill them out. Well, first of all, he's trying to mill them out. Second of all, he doesn't have any counter spells really in the main deck to be able to deal with it. All of his best answers are sorcery speed.
And even in the sideboard, 3 negate, 2 dispel, those don't counter a hardcast angel.
Right. Yeah, he's much worse against that deck, and he also doesn't depend on his own graveyard, so I think that the Rest in Pieces are much better for him.
So here the players are. They're shuffled up for game 2. Marshall up again. Hein will be on the play. And they both keep.
And this is this metagame. We're going to play some tap lands for a couple turns before anything happens. Hein mulliganed to 6, it looks like.
Hein on 6, no 2-drop. He'll have to wait till turn 3 to maybe play a Geist. Sam McCravey tweets in, seems like people need to remember that playing main phase burn is bad against Sphinx's Revelation. Yeah.
Yes.
The card's been in Standard for a while, and it's defining Standard for a while. You got to learn how to play against it.
With that said, main phasing Searing Spear against Sphinx's Revelation, also not great.
Not a great play.
You know, there's plenty of tripping all over ourselves to go around, I think.
So Chris Hein, no Geist of St. Traft.
That's going to put the Pithing Needle on the bottom for Chris Marshall. So there goes one of the answers to Runechanter's Pike, assuming that's what we're going for.
Yep. Augur of Bolus doing his best Lumen Grid Warden impersonation.
There you go. Boros Charm to the face at end of turn. Not exactly the greatest Boros Charm ever, putting your opponent to 16.
Yeah, I would rather see him save that to maybe counter a Supreme Verdict. Effectively counter a Supreme Verdict.
Sure. Although it's possible he just doesn't have any creatures, which is what it looks like here. And the beatdown plan.
Boom, boom, 18-16.
There you go.
Interesting Chris Hines deck. He's so close to top 8, but he has no Boros Reckoners, main or sideboard. A card that we have been saying all day defines this tournament. 0.
Especially that deck now.
Right.
I think clearly is just exactly the card that deck wants. It does it's a creature that does everything that deck can't usually do, which
Block.
is block.
Yeah.
Mostly is block. But also be able to 2-for-1 creatures on the ground. Be more than just a speed bump in combat. Restoration Angel is your best creature on the defensive end, other than Boros Reckoner, and it's good, but it's no Boros Reckoner.
Right, and it's really easy to see coming too.
Yeah. So Supreme Verdict after an attack is going to set life totals at 16 apiece.
Chris Marshall kind of 3-for-1ing himself there, but a Geist of St. Traft is just that kind of threat that you must get off the bat.
Yep. I think it's probably correct based on Christopher Hein missing land drops.
Right.
3-for-1ing yourself there is more than acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, as we can see here, is
it's
it
not
charm?
like he even 3-for-1ed himself because he got a card off the auger.
Right.
So.
The 1/3 is not why you play Augur Bolas.
Right.
So is it charm? Discards Bonfire and another red card. Chris Hein finds his next land though, which is what he wanted to do.
And another Augur of Bolas.
Wow.
Finds negate.
Chris Hein can't be happy about that, especially after doming him with Boros Charm. The plan of burn you out looks pretty
Slightly
unlikely
worse now, yeah. I think Chris Hein is really going to need a creature. See, that's the other thing, is that it's just another body. Is that it's, Nessie and Courser. Just a 3/3 for 3. Against Chris Marshall, it's literally just a 3/3 for 3. Almost all the time. Which is just good enough.
Yeah. Exactly. Chris Hein does not have the luxury of playing Centaur Healer because he can't cast it.
Yeah. So Snapcaster Mage after attacks.
That'll get an Is It Charm to draw 2, discard 2. Chris Hein thinks that Faithless Looting is better than Boros Charm right here. He's probably right.
I think he's probably right. I think that finding the 5th land and finding another threat is way more important.
Wow, Mizium Mortar still in Chris Hein's deck.
Mizium Mortars in.
To be fair, he didn't have much to side out, but still, Mizium Mortar is just
I feel like that would
dead.
be the first card that we would take out. Yeah, he would have to take out Pillars, Mizium Mortars, and Bonfires. So he has 9 cards to take out.
Only 7, I think. 2, 2, 3.
2, 2, 3?
So 7 cards. He could bring in 2 Counterflux. And
that's it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, these Static Casters, I think just being a flash creature is more relevant than a card that kills a Augur of Bolas.
Right. So Thundermaw Hellkite coming down for Chris Hein. And we'll see
Chris
what Marshall
might
can...
not have an answer.
No,
right
it doesn't
now.
look like he does. Wow.
Take a million.
Boom, you're down to 9 all of a sudden from 16 down to 9.
So Chris is going to have the Supreme Verdict next turn, but still, we're at 9. We don't have many counter spells. I guess we have 2 now that I look, so never mind.
Nothing else though.
Nothing else though. Not much in the way of business.
Right, no Sphinx's Revelation, which is the important part.
Yeah, every creature Christopher Hein draws for the rest of the game is just complete gasoline. Just because Chris Marshall has so few answers.
Exactly. He's sitting on a pair of negates, but Snapcaster Mage drawn by Hein. That's perfect.
It's pretty good. Actually, that's probably perfect.
That one's pretty good too.
So we're going to try Miracle of Terminus. We need a miracle. Don't got it. Down to 4. And now we have to counter every burn spell, pretty much. Not every burn spell, but
pretty much
every burn spell.
Wow, D-Sphere off the top for Chris Marshall. Gets just what he needs. Get that away.
It's still an uphill battle for Chris. He still doesn't have a Drown Yard, although he doesn't need it. It certainly, we're going to need to step on the gas a little bit to start trying to win the game instead of just giving Christopher Hein all of these draw steps.
Eventually, Chris Hein's going to draw enough burn to finish Marshall off, and there's no doubt about it. How many burn spells in this deck? 12, 15, plus Snapcaster? Something like 20 burn spells in Chris Hein's deck. But he can only say go.
Yeah, I think that the blue in Christopher Hein's deck is mainly 2 flashback burn spells. This is a lot like a blue-red burn deck from Legacy.
Yeah. Whose best creature is Goblin Guy. A
Yep.
blue deck whose best creature is Goblin Guy.
Yeah, and that's not a great thing to be. That's not a great place to be when your opponent has Sphinx's Revelation.
Yeah.
Wasn't expecting a ton of Sphinx's Revelations, I don't think, was Christopher Hein.
It doesn't look like it, but draw 7, gain 7. It's pretty good.
It's okay.
He'll have to discard a few, though. He'll pitch some lands, separate the spells from the lands, and goodbye. I might keep a land instead of a negate. I don't think you need 3. We'll see.
Yep, that's what he does.
So good discards from Chris Marshall. It looks like he drew into a Tamiyo.
That's okay. It's pretty expensive.
Oh, that might not even be a Tamiyo.
I think it is a Tamiyo. I think it's more likely that it's a Tamiyo than a Jace.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think that's what. And I saw loyalty down in the corner, so I think that is what it is.
So Chris Marshall went up to 14 and then went down to 12.
Counterflux, the Terminus.
I'm not sure I like that. All you have is a 2/1 right now. I might have saved that Counterflux for a Sphinx's Revelation. Or a Tamiyo.
Right.
Now Chris Hein can only say it resolves.
Chris Hein just needs burn spells now, basically. Lots of them, because
Yeah.
Chris Marshall still has a negate.
He has to burn Marshall out before he can ultimate that Tamiyo. We're going to try and get the correct life totals for you. I think Chris Marshall should be at 12 from the 7 life he gained.
Yeah, he certainly should be higher than 5.
Yeah.
It's Geist of St. Traft is going to be met with Dissipate.
The 1X.
And that's where we probably should have used our Counterflux.
Yeah, I think so. I think Geist is a little more important than a 2/1 Snapcaster.
But as it is, we have one and not the other.
It's okay though. Snapcaster Mage carrying the banner.
So Chris Marshall is at 5. Okay. We must have just missed a hit from the Hellkite?
I guess so.
Or a Boros Charm. Was it like in response to a Boros Charm?
Yeah, it might have been. Boros Charm.
Yeah.
There we go. Makes sense. Makes sense. So Chris Marshall not actually that comfortable as he has no more Sphinxes left. Drown Yard is online though, so the slow, steady clock is going to start. Oh, Snapcaster, flashback Sphinx's Revelation, leaving up 2 mana to negate.
Flashback Counterflux, though. Your negate doesn't matter.
Nope.
It's pretty good.
Can't get into a counter war with a counter flux.
That's right. Another Miracle Terminus. There we go.
It's a miracle.
All I want out of my life, though, is for the last draw of the last card to be the Snapcaster Mage, and have that be the thing that matters. That'd be so great.
Oh, it really would. Chris Hein looks for a miracle himself. He would take a bonfire right now.
Yeah, if those are still in the deck. Probably unlikely.
Wow, negating the Azorius Charm. Chris Marshall just trying to ultimate that Tamiyo.
Yep.
Burning all his resources.
And once he does that, he can Drown Yard himself to draw 3. He can cycle the Azorius Charm he has. Negate, obviously, is bonkers.
Right.
So
Pretty much impossible to lose if he can just survive, well, if he can have Tamiyo survive this one turn.
and he has negate, so there's a very good likelihood of that happening. So we're just going to ultimate this Tamiyo.
Yep, couldn't get that in the graveyard quicker. And the emblem. How many emblems do you make with Tamiyo on average when you only play one?
In a tournament?
In a tournament, the 9-rounder.
I'll say 3.
3 emblems.
Three's about right.
Yep. And there's the Sphinx's Revelation.
Yep, mill 3, draw 3. The problem with Tamiyo, I've found, is if you are not careful, you actually are in danger of decking yourself.
Especially with a card like Sphinx's Revelation. If you need to burn that just to stay alive.
Yeah.
It's definitely possible.
But now we have a Zorius Charm negate lock, so that's going to be the end.
Yep. And Marshall playing his hand face up, showing his opponent.
Yep.
Chris Hein packs it in.
That's
I
the
have
end.
to give Chris Hein props on his sweater, but sweaters alone not enough to carry you into the top 8.
Yeah, that game was slightly better played.